Hello, and welcome to the Career Compass program, which includes online learning sessions, podcasts, videos, webinars, white papers, and whiteboard videos, all specifically designed for NAVFAC. Please check the Career Compass Resource Center, or CCRC, often for updates and new content to support your learning. This content will assist with learning and development within the 20 non-technical competencies outlined in the Workforce Development Strategy. Today's topic is solving problems through reframing, in support of the problem-solving competency. Throughout this video, you will see a paper-pencil icon on some slides indicating a workbook activity. When you see this icon on the top left corner, this means I'll be asking you to write something in your workbook or refer to your workbook. If possible, download the workbook from the Career Compass Resource Center, or CCRC, before continuing with this course. However, if you are not able to, just use any piece of paper and write your thoughts down on that. You can always transfer that to the workbook later. The objective of the webinar is to understand how reframing problems can help to find more complete solutions. In this webinar, we will discuss 1. What reframing is, 2. What it does, 3. Why you would use reframing, 4. We will look at some examples, and 5. How to reframe problems. Reframing is looking at a problem and finding a new way to see it, to discover new possible solutions for the problem. It has been applied in every possible problem-solving scenario, from individual coaching sessions to working with teams and entire organizations in solving business problems. Pause this video to record your answer to the problem on the screen. There is only one correct answer. The sum of 5 plus 5 is 10. But what if we asked a slightly different question? What if, instead of asking 5 plus 5, we ask, what are two numbers whose sum is 10? Go ahead and pause the video and write down some answers in your workbook for what are two numbers whose sum is 10. When we reframe this problem, we expand the number of possible answers. Both questions deal with addition of two numbers, whose sum is 10. The difference is how we framed the question. When reframing, we pause, step back, and ask, what is the ultimate goal? From there, we can determine what is the best question to ask to solve the problem. Be aware of goal fixedness. This happens when we frame a problem with a very narrow focus. Language plays a critical role here. When we are too specific in our problem definition or question, we can lock our thinking into only one type of solution. Use general terms to help overcome this fixedness and open new possible solutions. For example, with the previous slide, are we looking specifically for 5 plus 5, or do we need to understand how many pairs of numbers can be added to get to 10? When identifying the goal, be sure that you do not eliminate any possible solutions by the language that you use when stating the problem. If the goal is too narrow, we can miss out on lasting solutions. When we are facing a problem, the first step should be defining what the problem is. Sometimes just asking, what is the goal? Or, what is it that we are trying to do? Can uncover what the problem really is. Then we can figure out what the right question is to answer to solve it. How we look at a problem matters, because that is how we will define the problem. When addressing a problem, ask yourself these 4 questions to help frame the issue. 1. What do I see as the problem to solve? 2. How else can I see this issue? 3. How does this look from another perspective? Or how might someone else see this problem? 4. What do I need to solve in order to solve this problem? Reframing is about challenging ourselves to look at a problem from different perspectives and thus find new ways of solving the problem. Our perspective is our point of view or attitude regarding an issue. Sometimes we need to shift our perspective in order to find the best solution. We all have our own perspective based on our experience and knowledge gathered from our whole life experience, our family, childhood, schooling, etc. All of this goes into creating our perspective, and while there are people who may have similar experiences and maybe similar perspectives, the truth is our perspectives are uniquely our own. So with everyone having their own perspective, we can see that there are many different ways of seeing every given situation. Where we get into trouble is when we think we are the ones that hold the one almighty truth, and that all other perspectives are simply wrong. There are times when we need to change our perspective to see how to solve a problem. This is a classic exercise for reframing. Do you see the two faces in silhouette looking at one another, or do you see a vase in the center on a black background? If you have trouble seeing one or the other, look at the white space in the middle and you should see a vase appear. If you have trouble seeing the faces, focus on one side or the other and the faces in silhouette should become clear. There is no right or wrong in this exercise. Both images exist in the same picture, just like more than one perspective of a problem can be right, though one may provide a starting point that leads to a solution faster. Reframing a problem or challenge can yield a new perspective on what needs to be solved or what the answer could be. One way of shifting our perspective is to literally get up and physically change locations to see things from a different angle. This little trick can unlock a new way of thinking. The next time you are struggling with a problem, change your position or move. If you are sitting up straight, lean back in your chair, or stand up and walk across the room, or leave the room and take a walk outside. The act of moving actually shifts how we think. When we move, we induce dynamic thinking because our brains are taking in more external stimulation as we are in motion. When finding a new perspective, sometimes we need to step back and widen our frame to see the larger picture, and sometimes we need to move in closer and shrink our frame to close in on an issue. Pause the video and answer the questions. What is a problem that you have had to solve more than once? What is an example of a problem where the obvious solutions were not feasible to implement because of cost, time, or a lack of return on investment? Both of these types of problems are problems that may need reframing in order to find a lasting solution. Here is a classic case for reframing a problem. You are the owner of an office building that has no vacancies. However, you have tenants that are complaining the elevators in the building are too old and slow, that it is taking too long for people to get into and out of their offices. Several of your tenants are threatening to break their leases over the long waits for elevators. Pause the video and write down in your workbook some possible solutions to the problem of the elevators are too old and too slow. The straightforward solutions would be to address the speed of the elevators, install new elevator cars, upgrade the motors or controllers. All of these solutions would make the elevators move quicker, but they would be very expensive to implement, and there is no guarantee that they will be fast enough to satisfy the tenants. So what can we do to solve the problem and not have to invest in very expensive solutions that may not solve the problem? We go back to the beginning, starting with the problem of the elevators being too old and slow and the wait is too long. We brainstormed ways to speed up the elevators, but those would be very expensive and there is not guarantee that they would satisfy the tenants. Let's reframe the issue that we want to solve, from focusing on the speed that the elevators are moving to focusing on the wait time of the tenants. Speeding the elevators up was not a feasible solution, so focusing on the length of the wait time would not do us much good. But if we focus on how the wait is felt, we may have more success. So let's reframe the problem from the elevators are too slow to the wait is too boring. Pause the video and write down some ideas that can make the wait less boring. Some of the most popular solutions are to install TVs, play music, put out newspapers or magazines, install mirrors. All of these ideas are cheaper and easier to implement than trying to speed up the elevators themselves. This was an actual case from the mid-20th century, and the solution that the building owner came up with was to give the tenants something fascinating to look at by installing mirrors by elevators, and it worked. You may have also noticed in some buildings today near the elevators, there are televisions or video screens with ads on them, places to sit, there may be a table with newspapers or local magazines, and there is usually music playing. The point of reframing is not about finding the real problem to solve. It is to see if there is a better one to solve. Most problems are complex and have multiple root causes. So too are there multiple solutions. Reframing allows us to see a problem from a different perspective and to apply a different solution. This is not the only way that this issue could be reframed. It could be framed as a timing issue, with the elevators being overused at specific times, so working with tenants to coordinate schedules may have solved the issue as well. We cannot solve problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. Albert Einstein. Engaging with others in problem solving can help to provide new and different perspective and help to expand our thinking. Today's issues and problems are complex and require deeper thinking to solve. Working as a team helps, and consider inviting others who are not on the team, but do have some familiarity with the issue to participate as well. You are not looking for them to solve your problem, but they may provide you with a different perspective that is not held by someone on your team. When asking people to join you for problem solving, you are asking them to be creative and innovative, to think beyond their areas of expertise or to share insights that they already have but held back. This means you are asking them to take a risk of looking foolish and to be vulnerable. Leaders need to be prepared to model the behavior they are asking for to make it safe to be unsure of an answer that is being put forward. Writing for the Harvard Business Review, Thomas Waddell Weddelsborg shares a story of a client organization he was working with, a small European company that was struggling with a lack of innovation from its workforce. The management team had gone through some general innovation training and was excited about rolling out a new framework to the company to help spur on innovation. While they made their plans for implementation, the general manager noticed a lack of an outside perspective and asked his personal assistant to take part in the conversation. She told the team of managers, "I've been working here for 12 years, and in that time I have seen 3 different management teams try to roll out some new innovation framework. None of them worked. I don't think people would react well to the introduction of another set of buzzwords." Her statement helped the team to realize that they had found a great solution, but to the wrong problem. The employees of the company already knew how to innovate and think creatively. What was lacking was the motivation to do so. The management team realized what they needed to be asking is, How do we increase the engagement of employees to drive their own motivation to use the skills they already had? There are two types of reframing. The first is diving deeper into your existing frame. This is when we look for unexplored aspects or ideas within the same problem. This is often referred to getting back to basics and focusing on fundamentals. Zoom in. The second is change the frame. This is often what we mean when we talk about reframing. It's changing how you frame the problem altogether by taking a step back to look through a wider frame, to see the issue from a new angle. Having others work with you can help with this, since we all have our own perspectives. Being intentional in having a set of diverse perspectives is very helpful. When diving into the existing frame, we are narrowing our field of vision, looking for a root cause, identifying the elements of the problem, looking for patterns and examples where the problem does not occur to find the positive exception to see if there is anything that can be applied from that. Also, make sure to examine how you are contributing to the issue. Sometimes we find our solution in our own actions. When changing our frame, we are backing up and widening our field of view. When changing your frame, ask yourself these questions. What is going on that impacts this situation or other aspects of it? Look beyond your own experience. Is this only happening here, or are there other similar events happening? Can you find some positive examples of how this is being dealt with? Look at the problem again and ask, is this the right problem to solve? What is another way to see it? What is my role in this? This can be an uncomfortable question to ask, but without self-awareness around how we are contributing to an issue, we will not find a permanent solution. When problem solving, always start with, what are we trying to solve? 1. Get the problem down in writing. The problem named is the problem solved, so write it down. This also helps to keep everyone on the same page and focused. 2. Step back and ask, why is this a problem? What is missing from the current problem statement? Are we overlooking any part of it or not considering something? 3. What type of problem is this? In his book, Unfold the Napkin, Dan Rome says that there are basically 6 types of problems. 1. Who/what? Problems relate to things, people, and roles. For example, who are all the players in this situation, and what do they do? What makes this thing different from that one? 2. How much? Involves measuring and counting. This may involve questions like, do we have enough of X to last as long as we need? How much do we need to be able to finish the project? 3. When? Problems focus on scheduling and timing, like, what is the order of things or events? What are our milestones, and when do we need to complete things? 4. Where? These are problems around how do things fit together and work together, and direction. Where do all these pieces fit? Are we headed in the right direction, or should we be going somewhere else? 5. How? These are issues of how things influence one another. What happens to Y if we do X? Can we alter the outcomes of a situation by changing our actions? 6. Why? Problems relate to seeing the big picture. Is this the right thing to do, or should we be doing something else? If we need to change, what are our options? How will we decide which of these options are best? Functional fixedness. A cognitive bias that limits a person to use an object only in a way it is traditionally used. As Abraham Maslow pointed out, when the only tool you have is a hammer, you tend to treat everything as if it were a nail. This fixedness can be a huge stumbling block for us because it limits our thinking and the number or types of solutions. Here is a problem to solve. You go alone to your new office. You discover that there are 3 lights on the second floor that are controlled by 3 switches on the first floor, so each light has its own switch. None of the switches are labeled. How can you figure out which switch controls which light with the fewest trips up and down the stairs? Pause the video and write down some ways to solve this. So the way to solve this with 1 trip is to turn on 2 light switches and wait 5 minutes. Then turn one of them off. Go upstairs and see which light is still on. Now you know the switch that is still on controls that light. For the other 2 lights, feel which one has a warm bulb and which one is cold. The light with the warm bulb was the one that you turned on and then turned off. The light with the cold bulb is the one that you never turned on. Remember, this is about functional fixedness. A light bulb is made to be a source of light, but they can also produce heat. Most of us know the story of the RMS Titanic, which on her maiden voyage crossing the North Atlantic, struck an iceberg on the evening of April 14, 1912, and eventually sank. Of the 2,200 people on board, only 705 survived in 16 lifeboats, most of which were only half full. Pause the video and write down in your workbook how you think the captain and crew framed the problem after they hit the iceberg. In the chat box, how do you think the captain and crew framed the problem to solve after striking the iceberg? Keeping the water out, patch the hull, stop the ship from sinking, keep the passengers calm, maintain order. We know that the captain and crew worked furiously to save the ship. This could have been framed as stopping the water from coming in, or any other frame to keep the ship from sinking. However, if the problem had been framed in a way to focus on getting all the passengers off the ship, and some effort was put into making sure all the lifeboats were filled to capacity, the building of additional rafts, or even using the iceberg as a refuge for passengers while the ship was repaired or help arrived, the number of survivors could have been dramatically different. This case for reframing is not about playing Monday morning quarterback or pointing out our errors. It is to remind us when we are in the midst of a problem to pause briefly and frame what is the problem to solve, or to ask, are we solving the right problem? Remember, 1. Reframing is not doing a deep analysis to find the root cause of the issue. 2. What it is doing is asking, is this the right problem to solve? If you are finding yourself resolving the same issue over and over, you may want to try and solve a different problem so you don't have to keep not solving the same one. 3. Reframing is about seeing the problem from a different angle or different perspective. This may be from literally a different physical perspective, or it may be from a different professional lens by engaging someone on the outside. 4. Regardless, you will need to change your mindset in order to see new possibilities. 5. Remember how you see and define a problem is important and impacts what solutions are possible. Here are 6 reminders for reframing. 1. Look beyond the frame. What is missing from the current problem statement? Are we overlooking any part of it, or are not considering? Is there anything outside this frame that we are not paying attention to? 2. Look beyond your expertise. What led up to this? Or how did we get here? Who can help me see a new perspective? 3. Re-examine the goal. Are we focused on the right goal? Is there a better goal? How else could or should we be trying to achieve this goal? 4. What is working? Look for positive differences. What is different? Can it be replicated? Who else deals with this or similar things? Have we seen this before? 5. Look in the mirror. How am I contributing or causing the problem? 6. How do others see this? Pause and do not jump right into problem solving and get others' perspectives on what is going on. Thank you for watching this video. We hope that you gleaned useful and helpful information. If you have any questions, please contact your civilian training advocate or contact HQ's BD17 at NAVFAC HQ, Total Force Development at Navy.mil. You will receive credit for participating in this course. To receive credit, email the address here with the listed subject line, course name, and completion code, or scan the QR code on your screen. This will automatically generate the email you need to send. Just be sure to include your Navy email address in the body of your email if you're using a personal device. Thank you, and have a great day.